through this last bent path.
Got it.
Scanning Spybot and accessing its internal drives. While I'm analysing this data, you should make yourself scarce. Unless you'd like to explain to your new, heavily armed, privatised police force why you've broken into the station.
Alright, fine.
The Spiderbot fragment you found has a satellite-based GPS module that regularly pushed its location to a specific ground station.
A secret location? Well, further and further down the rabbit hole we go.
Pushing you the ground station's coordinates.
Auto drive now enabled. Auto drive now disabled.
This is London
Auto drive
Calling.
now enabled.
I'm Tash, and you're listening to Buccaneer, your source for what they don't want you to know. Today we're talking about Dev Hassani, our gone, but sadly not forgotten Prime Minister. It's strange to think that he was just another here today, gone tomorrow politician until his infamous London is drowning speech went viral. The forces of darkness he unleashed with that speech changed everything around us. Was Hassani's rise inevitable? Could it have been stopped? And what happens when democracy starts to breed the ideas that can destroy it? Using back channels and underground contacts, we got in touch with political analysts and historians to find out how it's possible for cynical, short-term leaders like our beloved Prime Minister to give birth to political nightmares. No full names, as you know. These days, telling the truth can get you killed. Helen spelt out the dangers of populism for major political magazines and websites back in the pre-censorship days.
The appeal of fascist politics is about strongmen, and they are usually men, because it's about saying there are simple problems that are really easy to define, say immigration, and there are simple solutions to them, stop immigration. And they are really appealing because they make sense of a world that can often feel really complicated and confusing, and they do offer, or seem to offer, action instead of what politics can often be, which is a kind of messy set of compromises where no one gets really what they want, everyone gets a little bit of it. And that's the problem, really, is you end up in a situation where it looks like someone is going to do something incredible and transformative, but of course either it never really delivers, or it delivers at a huge cost to, for example, dehumanizing people. And I think you see that in the rhetoric around immigration. If you say immigrants are a problem, we're going to stop them, it's a legitimate political stance for a country to want to control its borders, but the way that that's done can often end up being very cruel and inhumane, because what you have said is immigrants specifically are the problem. Not every fascist is a populist, but they are two interlinked styles of government, really, because what fascists tend to do is rely on narratives of deep change and of enemies. I think that's one of the hallmarks of this style of politics, where you represent your opponents not just as people who disagree with you, but as existential threats, as evil people. So you see it in the course of the run-up to the Second World War, where
You have
Jewish
reached
people
your
are represented
destination.
as, rats and a scourge. You see it with Muslims, where they are represented as coming to take over and replace white people. So you have big defined groups of enemies that the person who is trying to convince you to vote for them, or later on simply to support their regime perhaps, needs to defeat. There is always an enemy to be defeated. Unfortunately, one of the things we're very bad at as humans is recognizing different things when they don't look like previous examples. So I think in pre-crisis Britain we had an idea that when fascism came it would look again like the 1930s. It would look like a single charismatic leader. It would look like a jackboots in the street and huge flags. And it didn't look like that. It looked like social media groups. It looked like poisoning the well so that no information could be trusted. It had its own specific flavour, and that, I think, blinded people, as did a kind of complacency that things aren't ever going to get that bad ever again. That's a problem for the past. We're much more sophisticated now. We're not going to succumb to these great moods of emotion where everyone is hysterically listening to a leader. Well, guess what? People don't change that much.
Where do authoritarians come from? Before the crisis, Ian was a senior journalist covering the global rise of the strongmen.
Populism started to rise as a response to a series of crises. Now, some of these were true, some of them were false. There was a financial crisis. People were poorer. They were less secure than they were. They were looking for easy answers. There was a refugee crisis. I mean, the extent to which that was an actual crisis is frankly questionable. There wasn't actually that many people coming over. But what you had was mainstream news reflecting really quite right-wing rhetoric, portraying what was ultimately a trickle of boats as a major crisis hitting the country. And once you get into that situation, you are primed for having authoritarian leaders with fictitious but easy answers come along with a populist message and basically say to you, look, I will take care of the problem. I will make it all go away.
Bagley, how on earth am I supposed to get inside?
I'm detecting a surveillance network guarding a space under this bridge. If you can patch into it, perhaps you can take a look inside. The GPS history of the spider bot we recovered regularly pings these coordinates. Our mystery witness to the real bombers must have come to this lovely, damp location several times.
Dark, remote, underground? Well, it's a perfect hideout to plan a coup.
Or to discreetly dump a body into the Thames.
No sign of suspect.
We're being contacted by our potential recruit. Patching them through now.
If I can help DedSec at all, just say the word.
You don't owe us, but you could join us.
Yeah, all right.
That's it.
Fuck it.
Calling off the pursuit.
British Broadcasting, Britain's first news network.
You was over there. Keep searching.
This area is being recorded by the GBB.
Bloody hell. It's an off-the-books cop shop. Someone on the force had a bit too much time on their hands.
Well, if Albion was stomping all over your workplace, you'd find a different place to store your lunch too. And it seems our mystery officer was dedicated.
So what kind of personal project were they working on that brought them to the Tone bombing?
The computer's dusty enough to kill an asthmatic, but there may still be something useful on it.
This is Inspector Caitlin Lau. Well, former inspector now. Since Albion's coup, the Met is no more. The police brass had already buried the evidence anyway. Everything implicating Albion and Clan Kelly in the bombings. But I know Mary Kelly's band of twats were involved, and they're involved in other crimes we can look into. Me and a few good mates are willing to go off book, going after Mary Kelly again. I'll never fucking learn, will I? Inspector Caitlin Lau, video log. Clan Kelly and Albion are teamed up on some deal. I don't have all the details, but it looks to be human trafficking. The European Processing Center is the Albion angle. Since the bombings, they can grab anyone off the street. Call them illegal immigrants, potential DedSec insurgents, whatever. Though we know who the real danger is. So, Clan Kelly gets hold of these people, these immigrants, deportees, victims, really, and they're taking them somewhere. But where and why? It all comes back to the boss lady herself. I knew she was into something, but she wriggled off the hook. There's only one way I can do this. 24/7 surveillance on Mary Kelly. If I'm caught, well, this will be my last entry. But I have to see what she's hiding.
So, our mystery officer was Inspector Caitlin Lau. It sounds like Mary Kelly was her white whale, and her investigation led her to the bombings.
Right. So it just confirms that Albion and the fucking Kellys are working together. Roaches, the lot of them.
It seems like 0 Days Web covers all of the unsavoury bits of London. Tug on a thread, and it leads back to them. Clan Kelly and Albion included.
Oh, sods are being grabbed off the street. Like the bloody Stasi all over again. We have to do something about it.
Inspector Lau mentioned Albion is running their part of the operation out of the EPC. Detectives like us call that a lead.
Watch yourself. This won't end well.
Suspect reported in your area. Potentially armed and hostile. Received. Let's keep this by the book. Over. Control. I've lost the target.
This Albion Clan Kelly business leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And if Caitlin Lau's right, then this little nugget jumps to the front of the queue. We have reason to believe a former DedSec operative may still be alive, but missing inside the EPC.
Angel Lopez, not London-born, but I won't hold that against him, unlike some others.
Looks like Angel got caught up in the immigration roundup, which, ironically, may be the only reason he escaped 0 Days DedSec purge.
Anti-immigrant sentiment has grown in London since the bombings. Albion fuels it. It allows them to send anyone they want to their brutal refugee camp.
We need to find Angel before they discover he's DedSec. This is kind of personal team. But finding his trail might just shed some light on the Albion Clan Kelly connection.
Bollocks. At least he's still in the country. The EPC, though, not gonna lie, that's not good.
I've sent the details to your device and advised our contact at the EPC. They can get you inside.
Ready to immobilize the target.
Let's go. Stay focused. I'll be okay. Just stay
I'm frightened.
Suspect is unsighted. Unsighted sweeping area.
Right, I'm putting a stop to this. Units fall back. Over.